Greetings and salutations. Alright, the first thing you're going to hear me say about this movie is that there is a musical that is based off of it, and this video is going to be mostly about the movie, but I will be comparing it to the musical throughout. Why? Because the musical is one of my favorite musicals of all time. One of my two. Wicked and Heathers, they're my favorites. Yeah, I love Heathers the musical to death, so let's talk about the movie it's based on. Heathers. So Heathers is an indie film actually. It came out in 1989, literally 1 year after Beetlejuice. I say that because Winona Ryder was in both. The story of Heathers is really good and it's really deep. The setting, Westerberg High School, Sherwood, Ohio, 1989. Westerberg High School is pretty much the worst high school ever because all the students are dicks. It's that old school, you know, in order to seem cool, you have to be a dick. I can't believe that's what people used to think. Our main character is Veronica Sawyer, played in this movie by Winona Ryder. She just got in with the top clique in school, the Heathers, which is 3 girls all named Heather, and they are the most popular girls in school. Heather McNamara, Heather Duke, and the almighty Heather Chandler. They're not nice people, really. But Veronica Sawyer is a nice person, so she's like, what if I can make the school a better place this way? Then we got JD, Jason Dean, played by Christian Slater. He's a dude that Veronica Sawyer falls head over heels for, so they become kind of a thing. But JD is like, I can fix this problem of Westerberg High School. I got a way. Yeah, talk about twisted methodology. But that to me is why I love Heather so much, because the movie and the musical, they both start off as like really corny high school level comedies, even more so in the movie though. The dialogue can be seen as kind of corny. I mean, the movie is campy for sure. I mean, it's an indie film. It didn't even do that well in the box office. For all intents and purposes, it's actually a cult hit, because the first like third of the story of Heathers is, you know, basic level high school story. You have the cool kids, and then you have the kid that's not as popular, but she gets in with the cool kids, kind of like Mean Girls. Then you have the guy who's a bit of a bad boy. He's really a heartthrob. And honestly, Christian Slater is probably the best actor in the movie. I mean, Winona Ryder is pretty good too, and there were some scenes where Shannon Dowdery stands out as Heather Duke, but just my personal opinion, JD is the coolest character in the movie. The movie, not the musical. Yeah, I have different favorite characters in the movie and the musical. But as I was saying, the first third of the story of Heathers is corny high school level stuff, but then the story gets really good when characters start dying. And when I say characters, I mean teenage high schoolers in the story. JD and Veronica are trying to get back at Heather Chandler, so they're like, oh, let's put something in her drink. JD is just like, I'm more of a no-rust build-up man myself. It's drain cleaner. Yeah, Heather Chandler drinks poison and then she crashes through the glass table and dies. You're just like, holy shit. And from there, the movie takes the deep dive into really relevant social topics that a lot of high school movies don't dare to touch on. Everything from bullying to homosexuality, but most of all, teenage death. Whether it's teenage suicide, don't do it, or teenage murder. This movie's like, yep, we're gonna have teenage murderer in here. Characters are gonna start questioning their own morality. There's a point where Veronica is like, I am such a bad person because I've done terrible things. I deserve to die. There are characters who attempt to kill themselves, and it's all because of this twisted, fucked up society that Westerberg High School has, where the Heathers are on top and they are dicks. So when JD comes along and he's like, let's kill them, yeah, it makes for a pretty damn good story. Now, here comes the part where I compare the movie to the musical. Because again, like Beetlejuice, the musical made some changes that are big. But if you ask me, they're not as big as the changes that Beetlejuice the musical made from the movie. Example, in the musical, Veronica is now being haunted by the ghosts of JD's victims, which is really, you know, her conscience talking to her. That's not in the movie. There's a character in the movie named Betty Finn. She's not in the musical at all. In the musical, they made the character of Martha Dunstock kind of an amalgamation of the character Martha Dunstock in the movie and Betty Finn from the movie. And alright, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a spoiler warning because I really want to talk about this part of the story because it's one of my favorite parts. That would be Heather McNamara's confession. This is another one of the things that made me go, holy shit, Heathers is a fantastic story. Because later on, you get the perspective of Heather McNamara. She's like, yeah, I was one of the popular girls, and it sucks. In the movie, Heather McNamara, who's played by Lisa Ann Falk, she confesses it over the radio, and then the next day, all the high school students make fun of her, which is good for the story, but in the musical, holy shit. In the musical, Heather McNamara, played by Elliot Macklemore, she makes her confession in a song called Lifeboat at an assembly in the high school, and it really drives the point home. And then all the other students point and laugh at her right after that. In either case, in both the movie and the musical, those lead to Heather McNamara's attempted suicide, which Veronica stops. Veronica saves Heather McNamara's life and earns a true friend, and it's just one of the greatest things ever, which is pretty much why Heather McNamara is my favorite character in the musical. Because I don't even give a shit, Ellie Macklemore is the cinnamon roll everyone says she is, and she must be protected at all costs. But anyway, back to the movie. The score in the movie was done by David Newman, and it is about as 80s as a score gets. You know, a lot of 80s synthesizers, but there's also pan flute in there, or at least I think it's a pan flute. It just adds even more to the campiness of the movie, which is what I can say for Heathers. If you're not familiar with the musical at all, but you just watch the movie, you'll be like, why is this movie so campy? What is the point of it? Oh, the point is the story, because the story is really good. Because it doesn't sugarcoat anything, it takes a deep dive and says, hey, Teenage suicide, don't do it. And don't murder either. That's not good. It's social commentary with the coat of paint of 80s camp, which I personally just find enjoyable. But of course, if I had to choose between the movie and the musical, I would choose the musical in a heartbeat. There was also a TV show that was short-lived because it sucks and we don't talk about it. And that's the end of that. So in conclusion, Heathers is an awesome story about how twisted and fucked up a high school society can get. It's campy as fuck, as I've been saying. The only real good actors in the movie are Winona Ryder, Christian Slater, and Shannon Dowdery. Everyone else, you're like, okay, I can see why this movie didn't do that well. But what can I say? Without this movie, we never would have gotten one of my favorite musicals of all time. So there that is. So thank you, Heathers. My dream is that the musical will be made into a movie one day. A good movie, that is. There's no word on the street about it yet, but supposedly they are doing that with the Mean Girls musical. They're taking that and they're turning it into a movie. The way I see it, the musical had Barrett Wilbur-Weed in the cast. She played Veronica Sawyer in the Heathers musical. Brilliantly, I might add. So the way I see it, that is a step in the right direction of Heathers the musical being made into a movie. Somehow, but probably not. But in any case, Heathers the movie, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Do you love the musical as much as I do? Who's your favorite character in Heathers? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.